Hello, hello. Welcome back. And yes, it's been about a month. I've been away a long time, and we're going to deal with magic items, magic item creation. Um, and this might well be the last time I talk about magic items. And we'll be shifting to a slightly different format and streamlining things a little bit more and breaking things down a little bit more. So we're doing something else, but doing less. So sit back. This will be a little bit different to what I've presented in the past. There's certainly similarities, but it will be a little bit different. I'll put up a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll. I suggest grabbing some food, some drink, and getting comfortable. Welcome, Fred. Thanks for showing up. Okay, let's get into this, shall we? Because I would say this is going to take me, I don't know, 15 minutes probably, and it should be done. So let's start. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about how to make your own magic items, craft them, design them, whatever it might be. And there's some basic sort of rules and guidelines for doing that, and there's a lot of advice out there for going about that process. This is mine. I've done this 15 times. I've run this program on how to make magic items 15 times now. And I've made a lot of magic items, okay? So this is the sort of advice that I would give to you when it comes to dealing with magic items. Often the creation of a homebrew or a new magic item will result in a string of problems for a game master. And whether you believe it or not, even official stuff that's released by a publisher in a book, magic items aren't really tested that much because there's so many different combinations, different ways you could use them. And they're an easy way to publish. And also they are a thing that when you're homebrewing, it's one of the first things you start looking at is making your own magic items. Heck, you make your own magic items before you make your own monsters quite often, or your own adventures. So this is where people tend to go. Players will generally want more power, more options for your magic items or their magic items. Anything that they find in the game magic items ultimately undermine any game system. They are there deliberately to do that. Okay? And this affects the game master's preparation and the opportunity they have to develop and challenge the player's characters in the adventure they're running. Okay? Now, magic items can drive your role-playing game campaign. So the adventure you're running as a game master, they don't need to be a bad thing. They can be a major feature of your game and the adventure or campaign you're running. They can be the MacGuffin, right? Not the McMuffin, but the MacGuffin. And basically, it's an important thing that drives the story for the adventure and the players who are interacting with that adventure in some way. Okay, because players, they're not just interacting; they are making the story and the adventure themselves by being a part of the whole process. I always recommend to people to start small. You really do want to start small, so small and simple. Incorporating your homebrew or homemade magic items really slowly into your game so that you have time to see what the effect is in your group. You may not be able to solve the problem for everybody if you're publishing, but you can certainly at least look and see what's happening with your group of players. And this will reduce the number of issues that will occur. You will not avoid completely having a problem, but magic items being used by players is a thing. It will always generate some sort of issue at some point. Okay, so the question always comes down to, how do I create a balanced magic item? How do I create something that is balanced in some way that can be used and incorporated into the game that won't make a mess? Well, ultimately, really no matter what system you're dealing with, as soon as you incorporate magic items by their very definition are designed to undermine the game. Okay, so you have to accept that aspect. I know some of you will not be able to deal with that, but it's true. Okay, it is not practical to create a magic item that are balanced for a role-playing game. It really isn't. In fact, it's even worse when it comes to something like the game of Dungeons and Dragons 5e or even 5.5 or 6e, whatever the heck you're calling the new version of D&D, because the characters' mathematics and abilities don't are built in such a way that they don't require you to have magic items in the game to be successful. You can be successful, get from level 1 to level 20 and succeed without magic items. It's just a thing. Whereas things like Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 and 4e, even Pathfinder First Edition, do require the characters to have magic items, because the monsters are built with the assumption that they will have a certain number of magic items at a certain point to keep up with the monster math in the game. And then if you look at older versions of D&D or other tabletop role-playing games, the same sort of thing tends to happen. Okay, so just I want to point that out. So the power of your magic item. How do I determine what is the most powerful thing and what is the least powerful thing? The power of a magic item from greatest to lowest. This is how it works. Mobility is the best. So things that make you move faster, okay, give you more actions, or teleport you, transfer you to another plane of existence. These are the most powerful things you can incorporate into a magic item. Next are things that grant extra magical power. So something that allows you to really increase your ability to do magical stuff. What's a good example of this? Maybe it's as simple as increasing the ability for, the DC for a saving throw spell, or the attack bonus for an attack spell, something like that, okay? Or some sort of spell casting check. Being able to improve that, that would be the next thing. And then specific magical effects. So if you weren't able to cast something like magic missile or burning hands, then incorporating a magic item that can do that would be the next thing, like a wand of fireball or a wand of magic missile. Those are pretty powerful. Your next one down from there is your martial combat magic items. These are things like your swords and your armor that give you a +1 to damage or to hits, or do other things. They tend to be the next one. They're not actually at the top in terms of their power level. And then lastly is the miscellaneous utility stuff. These are hard to define, but they're usually the least offensive out of all of the different things you can give to a magic item. Okay. What I will say to you now, and it should be obvious, and I haven't usually said this because I had assumed people understood this. Avoid making a lot of different types of magic items that increase the same or numerical bonuses for an attack roll or a damage roll or an ability score or attribute score or something like that, because they will stack. Okay, they can be stacked by the players. And so if you have a weapon that gives you a +1 to hit and to damage, or just one or the other, it doesn't matter, but they can also put on a ring that gives them a +1 to their attack and damage, and they can also wear boots that give them a +1 or a +2 or a +3, and they can also wear a cloak that does the same sort of thing. As soon as they can get those together, they will start stacking them, and then their characters will become significantly more powerful than you were expecting them to be. So don't do that. There's a good reason why weapons should have bonuses to attack and damage, and other magic items should not. But you can do the same thing with an ability score. If something like stealth, if you have too many too many things that boost your ability to be stealthy and sneak around or perceive things, then of course you'll get much better at doing that. If you don't just have a cloak, but you can also get a ring and you can also get a helmet that are doing all the same sorts of things, and they stack, you have a problem. And even something like attunement in 5e will not solve this problem, because you can still wear three things. So that's the factor. Right. Now, magic weapons, magic armor, and combat-focused items will generally generate the most issues, not because they are the most powerful that you can make, but because often they are the first thing that a new dungeon master or a person creating magic items makes. Okay, they are the first things they go to. This is the first thing that players tend to ask for. So it's not wise as a starting point for a game master to make magic swords and weapons and magic armor, particularly if you're dealing with a bound accuracy system, which apparently 5e is supposed to be. I would say Shadow Dark does that better. And I would also say that even, heck, older versions of D&D probably do that better. Okay. Now, utility magic items are the best for creating for a player character, as they have the least effect on the game, usually. And they often don't affect combat and counter design, because they can't be incorporated in the combat aspect of the game. They tend to be used outside of combat. Okay. Also, something that like a common magic item tends to be the least powerful level magic item. This is also a good thing to do. You don't want to start off and make an artifact or a legendary magic item. Make something that's really common, something simple like a scroll or a potion, something really, really small. Now, the power of a magic item can be adjusted over time. If you start with a low-powered magic item with a low scarcity or rarity, not low scarcity, more like a high access point. So starting low, okay, in terms of its power, and that's a good place to start. And also making them rare will help, even though they might have a marker or tag saying common. And then you can incorporate more stuff as you go if you need to. It is much easier to avoid problems with overpowered magic items by increasing the power if it's too low in power, whereas if you have something that's already too powerful and you have to decrease the power, players don't really like it when you decrease the power of their magic items. Now, it would be nice if all players were reasonable, but not all players have been a game master or a dungeon master, so they don't understand that aspect of the game. And so they will have unreasonable expectations quite often with regard to this. If you have people who are all right with this, great. But start small, increase the power, rather than start really big and then have to decrease it. Okay? Where do you get your inspiration for your magic items? I've always gone back to the Harry Potter movies and the Harry Potter books. I think they're a great source. There are a lot of fantasy novels that have really weird, strange magic items in them that you can use. It's a great place to get really simple magic items that have lots of fun effects. Novels on fantasy is a big area for me. Even science fiction might include magic items that you can use. Historical magic items from mythology and legend are really useful too. Even computer games or video games, the magic items from there might be useful. I would say that common and simple magical effects from other role-playing games are a good source of items. So you can go to another role-playing game and you can see how their magic items are working, and you might be able to port them over to the game that you're running. Okay. And I would always sort of point you in the direction, because the thing with magic items, you can usually write them so they're kind of system agnostic. Not completely, but quite often you'll find a lot of them that are. Okay. Antiques and an heirloom or trinkets that aren't magical, you can give them a magical property. It doesn't need to be a lot. I really like the Player's Handbook trinket tables, but those trinket tables and many more are available for free online. You don't even have to buy a book. They've got a lot of potential, in my opinion. But there are a lot of other books out there that have trinket and heirloom and antique tables that you could also use. I would also consider older versions of Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of really cool magic items that you could port over to your game that kind of might have got lost over time. Okay. What is the process of making a magic item? So here is the process, and there are lots of resources you can go and access. I'm not going to go over them, but here's where I would start. Give your magic item an interesting or obvious name to tell part of the story of the object and help indicate the function of the magic item. So the flaming sword It's a sword. We know it's a sword. We can see it's a sword. It's called a sword. The flaming sword catches on fire. So it's telling part of the story. Okay, that can be very helpful. Something like the flame tongue is a good example of this. And you don't have to have a flame tongue sword. You can have all sorts of things. But that's one part of it. Excalibur has a name. Okay, it stands out. It doesn't. It's normally it would be a sword in legend and mythology, right? But it doesn't have to be. It could be something else. So give it a good, interesting name, something obvious. Create a magical effect that has a property that is beneficial or detrimental. Does not have to be always beneficial. Players prefer beneficial stuff. They don't like detrimental stuff. They don't like things that are negative. But it makes far more interesting magic items by giving them a negative property. You can give them a mix of beneficial and detrimental if you want a more complicated magic item. Special magical weapon abilities. There's lists of these things out there. You can get them from Pathfinder. You can even get them from the likes of D&D, most versions, frankly. Minor and major beneficial properties, some that are a bit more effective, some that are a little bit smaller. There are tables out there, minor and major detrimental properties, quirks. Heck, you can even get tables that give you the history or intent of the magic item. That's a thing. Okay, Dungeon Master Guides generally have a lot of that sort of stuff, or Game Master Guides. If you go to my Patreon, you'll find that there is a list of 100 different magic item properties that are positive, but also 100 negative magic item properties. So, yeah, you're going to have a lot of stuff to make with a table that big, okay? Legitimately 100, not a pretend percentile dice table. That is a real one. Determine the power level of your magic item. Is it low powered, medium powered, high powered? Again, I would suggest start low, okay? Select the appropriate scarcity or rarity of your magic item to help define its power. So something that's very low powered should probably be pretty common, pretty easy to find. Something that's really powerful and where there's one of a kind should be rare and scarce. You shouldn't be able to find it very often, which means it probably won't be in a magic shop, whereas something that's a bit more common, like maybe a potion of healing, you can actually buy at a shop, okay? Or you can go somewhere and get them. Whereas if you're trying to get a Necronomicon, you can't go to a shop and buy that. You're going to have to find it. The bond. Give your magic items a bonding process that's required, or attunement to a magic item to help stop player characters stacking too many powerful magic item effects. Okay, there's a good reason to use magic bonds and attunement. It is best assigned to a magic item that is permanent and doesn't run out of a magical effect, where it can be used constantly. So think about that. Does your magic item have charges? Does it have 1 charge per day, 7 charges, 10 charges? How do the charges come back? Do you just wait until dawn and it recharges itself? Do you have to stick it in a pool and recharge it? Do you have to go and see a wizard to re-imbue it with magical power? What do you got to do? Permanent effects. Okay, permanent effects, again, is it a permanent thing? Something that always is in effect. It doesn't have charges. It just always works the way it is. And then the single use. Things like maybe a rod that you can only be used once to resurrect somebody, or a potion of healing, or a scroll of something. Okay, those are sort of single use. They're consumable. Now, how else can you go about making your magic items? Well, artificial intelligence. ChatGPT version 4 is certainly better than the older ChatGPT, and you can go and pay for the paid version now, which I think is version 4.5, which is even better. It will make stuff fairly quickly and easily. I would warn you against AI doing a great job. You will have to do a lot of work. If you're sort of stuck and you're like trying to come up with an idea, and you're like, the blank piece of paper and the pencil and the pen aren't getting you anywhere and you need help, either hang out with other dungeon masters or game masters to help bring out the ideas. They'll help you develop things. Or go see ChatGPT, type in what you're kind of looking for, and see if there's anything that sparks an idea and helps you down a pathway when you're sort of getting that writer's block or that creator's block. Okay. Every time I run this program, I like to give out miscellaneous recommendations, so I'm going to do that. Expect to make a mistake or a lot of mistakes when you're making magic items. The creation, the home brewing of magic items, making mistakes is part and parcel of the whole process. Everybody else has done it who's been doing this for a while, so why should you be left out? Okay, so don't freak out about it. It's going to happen. It's all right. Okay, just accept it. It will happen. You do your best, and that's it. It is fine to take an existing magic item and reskin it in some way and call it a new thing. That's fine. It's not a problem. As long as you're not publishing it, it's not an issue. It really isn't. Nobody's going to know. There is no mathematical formula, no mathematical equation that will allow you to make a magic item that will avoid players finding a way to exploit that magic item. It doesn't work that way. Even if the magic item has numbers in it. Just because a magic item has numbers and bonuses and penalties does not mean that there is some sort of mathematical formula that you can plug in. It doesn't work that way. So stop trying, okay? Just accept that players in your group, there are probably 4 or 5, maybe more. They all have brains, and you're one brain. They will find a way to do something horrendous with the magic items that you make, and you just deal with it when it comes up. So that's everything I have today on how to go about creating, homebrewing your magic items. I really hope this was useful and helpful. Thank you to my patrons who support me, and that's where all of my stuff goes if you want it. I want to thank you for watching and listening, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, we'll go to chat very quickly, and then I would normally do some sort of magic item creation, but I'm not doing that today. I'm doing that in 2 days, so not tomorrow, but the day after, I'm be making magic helmets. We've been doing a lot of different magic items, okay? And so that's what I want to do, is I want to focus on that aspect of things. So I'm going to go through chat very, very quickly and just have a little see what people have to say, and then I'm going to stop this live stream, and I'm going to go, and right now I am designing for this game. I'm designing for Shadow Dark. I have been designing for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, but they will take a little bit longer to get done, and I will start telling you about where you can find that stuff when I get a chance. But this is where I am currently thinking. I am trying to aim for early March. I think that our deadline is something going to be like, what is it? The 10th or the 15th of February to get everything finally written and then into a PDF. So yes, and that'll be classes, and that'll be ancestries or races and species. But we'll do magic items eventually as well for this. And in fact, I'm already doing magic items. A lot of the stuff is designed to be used in terms of magic items across any version of D&D. Shadow Dark, it could be basic D&D or BECME or BX, the Rules Cyclopedia could be for this game. It could be, if I haven't banged things around too much, it could be for AD&D, like, 2nd edition, 1st ed edition, could be for that. Could be ported possibly into Pathfinder. They're all really just D&D, just different types of D&D, okay? So that's where my head is at with regard to that. I'm going to do a lot more of that sort of thing, so you're going to see that, okay? So that's coming. That'll be a bit longer. I'll probably, I don't know, maybe the middle of the year. I'm not exactly sure. So, Fred, what do you got here? Fred Huber is a patron. Thanks for being here, and a moderator. Most magic items are too powerful and essentially raise the PC power to one, 2, or 3 levels. Yes, that's very true, and it's really hard because you really need low-level magic items sprinkled in to really get a feel for what's going on in your group, and there aren't enough of them, frankly. Yeah. All right. Hi, Pale Rider. How are you? No, don't give out multiple rods of AUKUS. That's probably a really bad idea. Absolutely. No, now something like BECME or Basic D&D or AD&D, they're not quite as bad because your characters are already very underpowered as it is. They're not superheroes like modern D&D. So they're not going to throw things out too badly. And also too, a lot of the magic items that they made, I mean, finding a +2, +3 sword would be pretty difficult. +1 is probably the most common thing, and then you've got a string of other things that did all sorts of bizarre things that in the game. So yeah, it's not quite, yeah. Your character is built around your magic items in those versions of D&D and the older stuff. Well, that could be maybe a house rule. I suppose you could say you can only stack two magic items with the same effect. But you know, if you don't create them, then they can't be stacked in the first place. There's a reason why 5e has an attunement restriction of three magic items so that stacking can't occur. But that still means that you could potentially stack three if they all have the same effect, right? So there's a problem there. Well, at least for some people. Attunement is the same sort of concept, yes, as having a stacking restriction. It does part of the job. But if you make, like I say, a whole lot of magic items that give you a +1 to attack, then they will stack all of those and they'll wind up, changing the numbers quite significantly. They could do that with armor class as well. They can do that with a lot of different things. Heck, they can do that with stealth. They can do that with perception. They can do that with just an ability score of some kind. So yes. Hello, Overboard. Overboard is a moderator. How's it going, Joe? In most fantasy literature, there's one magic item. That's the whole story. Like Lord of the Rings had just the ring. That's very true. Like, I mean, although Lord of the Rings there were three swords. There was the sword that Gandalf had. The sword. Oh, that's the Hobbit, isn't it? Gandalf had the sword. One of the dwarves had a sword, and then of course Bilbo had a dagger or a sword himself, and then there was the ring as well. So there was a couple of different magic items in there. So yeah, maybe not quite so many would help. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so what's this? I just ordered the Griffin's Book of Magic Items #2. It has over 700 items. Laugh out loud. So the book I'm working on will have about just over 400. I don't know. It will have at least 400. Most of which will be common in terms of or low powered magic items, things that you can incorporate into the game and feel like they won't throw a monkey wrench into your game. Like that would be a bad thing. Yep. So that's what I'm working on. Most people don't even bother play testing magic item books, so they just put them out because they know they're going to break the game. So hello, how's it going, Derp? Derp is a patron, also a moderator. Hello, everyone. Got to head off to class soon, no problems. I've got to go in a second, actually, as it is, because I'm not going to stay around for a long time. I just wanted to chat very briefly with you and just let you know where this is going. So I will be working on this book with Wally DM. Wally DM has a good record. He's made 3 books now, 2 on his own. So I am pretty confident that we will get it done. Okay. No, there will not be a Kickstarter. We're just going to make it and put it out. So here's the thing. I'm not planning to run making magic items as Game Master preparation again. I think it would be very unlikely. If I'm still around next year after 2025, maybe I'll run it one more time. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think I'll keep doing it. Instead, I'm going to focus on just making stuff, and if you show up to the live streams when I'm making stuff, great. And I will reduce the number of live streams that I do. So don't expect quite so many because there won't be. Hi, Jed. How's it going? All right. That is everything for today. So let's crank on out of here. And I just see the poll says, do you have trouble making your own magic items for a tabletop role-playing game? No, 66%, doing all right, good. Yes, 33%, and that is out of 6 votes, so it's not too many votes. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. We are dealing with doing some monster building. So remastering the Shadow, I believe, is tomorrow's video or live stream. I don't expect that to be too difficult to sort out, but that's what I'm doing tomorrow. Anyway, a huge thank you to everybody in chat. Really a huge thank you for taking part in the poll. All my patrons, I do appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with me for as many years as you have. I've been around 9 years now, it apparently seems. But everything will, I think, like most things, will probably come to an end, and that'll wind up mean doing something else. And publishing is probably the thing. Anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you very much for watching and listening. And hey, till next time. Well, wherever you are in the world, don't I? So I say that, don't I? I've been a while. I'm a bit rusty. So whether it's be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.